So what now?
We live.
The movie's about the robot's struggle for dignity.
Playing a robot, there's more compassion than the human beings in the film.
Step away from the box.
Robots make the world a better place.
Fighting wasn't the dream. Peace was.
Welcome back to State Secrets, the companion podcast to the Russo brothers' newest film, The Electric State, available now on Netflix. I'm your host, Francesca Amaker, and today we're diving into an episode that explores this intersection of technology and humanity. In episode 4, The Secret to Bonding with a Robot, we'll be talking about the role of robotics and advanced technology in the film. The Electric State presents us with a world where sentient robots roam a crumbling landscape, and at the heart of the story is the bond between a human and a machine. How do we create this sense of life in a robot? And more importantly, what kind of relationships can humans form with machines? These are questions we'll be exploring today. Joining us are some incredible guests who all played key roles in bringing the film's robots to life, both technically and emotionally. Let's kick things off by hearing from the visionaries themselves, Joe and Anthony Russo. So my question for you is, which character was the most challenging to develop when writing the script?
You know, it was probably Kid Cosmo, the robot. It was a difficult character because it's a representation of her brother with an inexact ability to communicate. And there was a draft of the script where his voice box was broken, he couldn't speak at all. Where we ended up with this, with the painted on face, that the level of expression wouldn't work in that regard. So we added in some catchphrases that he can only speak in that approximate what he's trying to say.
Better hurry. There's trouble on the moon.
Center.
We can team up. We can defeat the rock monster.
And so there's a real process of discovery and layering with that character that led to what you see in the movie.
Would you agree with that, Kid Cosmo?
Yeah, he was very challenging for sure, for the reasons Joe was just outlining. Also, Millie has to spend many scenes in the film interacting with that character in complex ways and sort of figuring out how that character could possibly perform with her, especially when it's a CG character. That was probably the most complicated thing because there's the heart of the emotional conflict in the movie rests between those two characters.
We're gonna go get Chris.
You realize your brother is a lemon-head robot, right?
He's not a robot, he's a person.
So what are you gonna do if you find your brother? I mean, the rest of them.
One of the big themes in the movie is this bond between humans and robots. In what ways does this movie explore that?
I mean, it's a big question in the film, right? Is that the robots feel like they deserve respect and dignity. The humans view them as, service bots.
My toaster breaks, I get a new toaster.
That's murder. Do you hear yourself?
No,
It's
bots
murder.
have an on-off switch.
If I may finish. We deserve the right to liberty, deserve freedom from servitude.
They deserve the right to work for me when I plug them in.
The movie really ultimately is about the robot's struggle for that respect and dignity. And there's a lot of miscommunication going on and a lot of animosity between humans and robots. And Millie's character and Chris's character, who inhabits Cosmo, become the bridge to pull everyone back together through love.
The things Center did, they weren't just bad for robots. They were bad for all of us.
These computer-generated characters made up a lot of the film.
Yeah.
How crucial was it for you to make sure that you had the proper emotions with CG characters?
Yeah.
Joe and I, throughout our entire careers, we gravitate to ensemble storytelling. So no matter how small a role, we look at that character as having a really important part in the storytelling, and we'd like to figure out what is the most exciting way this character can intersect with the story, even if it's for a limited amount of time. And I would say we take that approach with any character, whether it be a CG character or a human character. We do have a lot of very talented performance actors who are on set with us working to approximate what that robot might be able to do once we build it in post-production through visual effects. So it's a process, it's a layering process. It starts with the script, goes all the way through production, all the way through post-production, you're constantly looking for ways to develop those characters.
So if I were to ask you all the biggest challenge of working with CG characters, what would it be?
You know, I think it's what Anth described. It's translating that character correctly on set so that Millie and Pratt, that they're interacting with the correct interpretation and tone of the CG character. That's a discovery throughout the entire, filmmaking process. It's our job to make sure that it doesn't misalign at any point. The performances feel matched.
Mr. Peanut, we need your help.
I'm sure you do, but the actual fact is your presence here provides legal justification for Center to wipe out everything these robots have built. The best I can do is escort you 10 miles into the desert and leave you on your lonesome. I mean, after chow, of course.
Now let's turn to the two people who brought that story to life on screen, Millie Bobby Brown and Chris Pratt.
You had so many moments where you worked with Herman, right? And Anthony Mackie, and that relationship was so brotherly. We thoroughly enjoyed it. How did you manage to kind of work with this CGI character, but also make it seem so real?
So Anthony voices Herman beautifully.
Most people would think it was weird, right? A robot and a guy getting along, hanging out.
So while we're filming, we're working opposite actors who are doing motion capture work. Oftentimes there's stunt people, and Marty, who is my mocap Herman, is someone I've worked with before. He did some mocap work in Jurassic World and does mocap work on this, and this dude is just so funny. I love him dearly. And so my relationship with Herman is actually built upon my pre-existing relationship with Marty, who's absolutely hilarious and tough and lovable and wonderful. So oftentimes what we were doing back and forth was me and him. He was saying the lines and I was improvising a lot. When it would come to my side of things, if we're doing a shot that wasn't like two cameras, like you have this camera and this camera rolling at the same time. So if you improv something here, it's fine because my strange thing I say and your reaction to that strange thing in the organic in the moment is captured on both sides. But if you're doing just a single shot, which oftentimes we did, they would have to write down all of these different improvisational things and then create comebacks for them. And so while they would be on me, I'd be saying all this stuff, and then they're on him saying all the various off-camera things and feeding Marty the lines. It was absolute freaking
But I
chaos.
also loved when Chris would improvise, Joe Russo would also sit and their banter back and forth.
A lot of the banter came from Joe just saying crazy stuff and just turning into something that wasn't on the page.
If you ran up, tried to do it twice and went, "What's wrong with the engine?" Turned around and grabbed this and went, "Why is it unplugged? Did you not charge the..." It's just like a series of bits about cords and plugs with these two.
We talked about the brotherly relationship between you and Herman, but I want to go ahead and obviously talk about the brotherly relationship between you and Christopher and Cosmo as well, since...
It's very, very easy when you have such an amazing mocap actor. So obviously Chris had Marty and I had Devin. She played Cosmo, and it was just this love and relationship that we had connected. Her performance was unbelievable, and it drew out a lot of emotion in me. The real you is out there somewhere. Are you all right? How do I find you?
In the Electric State, the robots and world building feel like an authentic extension of our reality, familiar yet surreal. One person who played a huge role in bringing that vision to life is Terry Notary, the film's motion capture and movement choreographer. Terry worked tirelessly to give the robots and environments a genuine, lived-in feel. Up next, he'll walk us through how he brought such an immersive world to life on screen.
So evidently, to do motion capture, you have to have an imagination, out of this world. So when you see a graphic novel like The Electric State, what's the process for you?
Yeah, I mean, you go with the images and you go with the story, and then you read the script, of course. They're just writing such good dialogue and such good story that it's just impossible to not fall in love with these characters and to just try to bring life to them.
Oh me, oh my! Taco humans!
I want to know, what is the biggest difference, Terry, between robot movement and human movement for you? Was that a big thing in this movie?
Yeah, it was really kind of fun to find that balance where we didn't want to be lock and pop and kind of, we wanted to kind of have enough of the the movement where you could kind of feel the soul still coming through, but still have the mechanism that moved that soul around, if that makes sense. You weren't like lock and stop and then redirect into a new idea and then do another idea. Our consciousness would lead one idea into the next, but it still had the robotic movement that carried that idea.
Yeah, I could definitely feel that. Each of these robots had this distinct personality, and it really shined through. I could only imagine how difficult that is.
You know, you just keep playing. You just keep playing, and then oh, there it is. That was something. Wait, that's it. Oh. You're just tapping into something that is in you, and you just kind of like opening it up, letting it come out. And then you just go with that as your foundation. You're not playing anything that's not you already. Playing a robot, it was really about tapping into being honest, because they truly were these just genuinely honest creatures. And that they actually had more compassion for each other than the human beings in the film.
The treaty doesn't allow you to stay. That doesn't mean I can't help you leave.
I thought we were the enemy.
Could be the human factory made some good models after all.
Thank you.
Well, I was talking to her.
So it was kind of like just playing a human, but in a robot's body. And so, especially with Peanut, he's the leader, he's the protector, and he wants to improve their livelihood. And here you have the humans that are they're losing all of that. They're becoming just removed. And so it was this nice sort of fun thing to play, you know?
It seems like Mr. Peanut was one of your favorites as well. I want you to take me through the process. How does Mr. Peanut come alive?
You just play with different ideas, and then you just kind of, I like to go for walks on the beach. That's my big thing. When I'm working on a character, it was really where I kind of found out how Peanut was going to be. And he just felt like he was truly, he had purpose, and he had reason, and he had the rightness in him. And that was what he was about.
You're looking at the cradle of a new mechanized civilization.
Hey, Mr. Peanut.
How do, Blitz?
Ralphie!
At Blue Sky Acres, robots can evolve past the job descriptions humans stuck on them.
So it was nice because we got to kind of touch on things that are very pertinent today, you know, with human beings kind of becoming more and more removed with the whole, social media thing that's sort of taking us away from our grounded sense of just, being primal beings that we are. And here he is more primal and more grounded than the humans.
The robots, they were essential. They needed to feel both familiar and integrated into this world as real functional beings. Up next, I'm talking with animation supervisor Liz Bernard. She'll walk us through how her team achieved that perfect blend of machine and humanity. There are characters that we didn't even get to know. We have a sense of their personality just by that animation. Was that the unique goal that you had for every single animation that hit the screen?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what makes these characters feel so lived in and the world feel more real and plausible, is that people put thought and time into every single thing that you see on the screen. It's not like we reused everything everywhere, or we could just animate a single walk cycle and pop it onto all the different characters, because they all had different bodies. So they have all different lived experiences, right? Like in this world that we've created. Yeah. And I love that kind of stuff. It's really fun to think about.
Other teams are involved here too, right? Like you're collaborating with the directors, I imagine, yes?
Yeah, of course, we're getting feedback from them constantly as we, put shots forward for animation approval and then eventually for final. Part of the early stages of this was to figure out how should these robots move? Because you can say, okay, here's a movie full of robots. Make them look robotic. What does that mean, right? That could mean any number of things. And so what we eventually kind of settled on with the directors was we can't treat every single bot the same way. Some of them are more background characters, but the ones that are interacting more with the humans in this storyline, they need to emote more, they need expression in their performances. And so how do we do that, but still make them feel robotic in some way? And so we put together 3 or 4 different options for styles of movement. for each of our main characters, for Cosmo, for Herman, also for Mr. Peanut. And then we just animated them 4 different ways. And then presented all of this to the directors to say, okay, kind of where on the gradient from human to fully robotic do we want to land with these main characters? And it was a different place for each character. So we ended up with kind of a big gradient from super robotic and also more dilapidated. Like Popfly is a little bit more dilapidated. He's an earlier robot, so he's much more restrictive. All the way through Cosmo, who has these soulful eyes, even though he's got a giant smile painted onto his face.
You really sound like you're really connected to these characters, like they're almost your children.
I love them all these babies.
I knew it.
Yeah.
Bringing a character like Kid Cosmo from the screen to real life required more than just imagination. It demanded the cutting-edge robotics and engineering expertise of Dr. Dennis Hong and his team. A professor at UCLA and the founding director of ROMALA, the Robotics and Mechanisms Laboratory, Dr. Hong is known for pushing the boundaries of robotics innovation. He and his team took on the extraordinary challenge of designing a real-life Kid Cosmo. Today, we'll learn how they approached this task and the unique challenges they faced along the way. Joining me now, Dr. Dennis Hong from ROMALA UCLA, the roboticist extraordinaire. You have created so many robots in your time, but then the Russo brothers reach out to you and say, hey, we got something in mind for you.
Yeah, this is different. They wanted to have a robot that needs to look like the character in the movie. So we had to create a real robot that looks like in the movie. So not CGI, but to be used in real life, in the red carpets, promotion, the Comic-Con events. And how cool is that?
Yes.
But then they explained that there's many different type of robots and Kid Cosmo is the main character. And then, I was really, really excited.
I mean, this is the entertainment industry now.
Very different.
How different was this for you?
Typically, our research projects are 3 to 4 years. Mm-hmm. This one, we wanted it in 6 to 8 months.
Which is crazy to me.
Yeah. That's a challenge. But we enjoy challenges. If it's too easy, that's no fun. So when we actually design a robot, the shape and size and the dimensions are not arbitrary. It needs to follow the rules of physics. But in this case, we're not making just a random robot. We have to build this robot that's already designed in the movie. And that is a big challenge. For example, the body is tiny. How can you fit in all the computers and sensors, and how do you do that? The legs are too short to make it really walk, and the feet are too big, and the head is gigantic, right? So whenever the head moves, it completely throws off balance. So we create a thing called a state estimator. It's a part of a software. It tries to estimate the position, velocity, acceleration, the context, and everything, and then it tries to predict the motion of the head and the effect on its body. So based on that, the lower body tries to compensate. We call that whole body control.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. That was good. That was amazing. Yeah.
What I found so interesting is the fluidity of Kid Cosmo.
The motion.
In the film. We don't normally see that in a robot.
No, so most of the robots that exist today that use electric motors, we use a thing called servo motors. Those control the position, and that's really rigid, and that's why robots move like robots.
Are you doing it?
I like to do this thing. But we cannot do that for Kid Cosmo because this robot is in the movie and needs to have that lifelike motion. So for that, we had to create this actuator. So think of it actuators like muscles for humans, right? So we call it artificial muscle because it not only just changes the position, but it changes the compliance. Because of that, it generates not only this very fluid motion, but this is also very important for walking as well. If you use regular servo motors, they only move like a robot, and we cannot do that for a character like this.
Freeze!
What's really exciting is seeing the excitement in your eyes and how you have been doing this for years.
Yes.
But yet you still get excited about something like this. I feel like I'm talking to...
It's kid in the candy store.
Yes!
I am a kid in the candy store.
What would 7-year-old Dennis say knowing that you're working with Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
Agbo, brother.
Dream come true.
Yeah.
So, true story. When I was 7 years old, I watched the movie Star Wars. Completely blew my mind. But in the movie, the C-3PO human robot and R2-D2, it was the coolest thing. And on my way back home in the car, I told my mom and dad, I'm going to grow up to become a robot scientist.
Wow.
And I'm here today. And now I'm building real robots for the movie industry. How cool is that?
Wow.
Yeah.
What is the greatest good that robots can provide to humanity?
It might sound cheesy, but in our lab, we have this belief that what we create, it's truly to make the world a better place, give people happiness. Robots are intelligent machines that does work that people cannot do or don't want to do. And if you think about it, this kid Cosmo, it's still a fictional character. It doesn't really do things for you, but through entertainment, it gives happiness to people.
Thank you so much to all my guests for joining us today and sharing their insights on the emotional connections between humans and robots in the electric state. It's fascinating to see how the robots still reflect so many human qualities, from loyalty to love and even protection. Don't miss our next episode, where we'll dive into the incredible music and sound design of the film. Until then, stay curious. I'm your host, Francesca Amaker. State Secrets Inside the Making of the Electric State is a production of Netflix and Treefort Media. From Netflix, our executive producers are Catherine Hugh and Ray Vada. For Treefort Media, our executive producer is Kelly Garner. Our series producer is Mary Chalinza. Our co-producer is Lisa Ammerman. Our lead editor is Martin Applebaum, engineered by Matt Dyson, and our associate producer is Aiden Brooks. Special thanks to Marianne Coltai-Levine, Sarah Caruso, Sophia Russo, and the rest of the team at Agbo Films. Be sure to check out Joe and Anthony Russo's video podcast, Pizza Film School, and listen to more from Netflix podcasts available wherever you get your podcasts.